Councilmember DiRigo,
Yes, here.
Councilmember De La Rosa,
Here.
Mayor Donahue.
Yes, here.
Fortunately, there's no public here, so I got away with it. All right. I didn't want that recorded for posterity's sake anyway, so. All right. Anybody on Zoom? All right. We are closing public comment. Why don't you check up on us on the Levine Act?
All right, California Government Code 84308, Levine Act. Do any members of the committee have any campaign contributions to disclose related to any items on today's agenda? Councilmember DiRigo,
No.
Councilmember De La Rosa, Mayor Donahue.
I do not. All right. I now need a motion on the consent agenda, 26-142, the minutes from the last meeting on March 17th. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
All right. Go ahead and call for the roll.
Councilmember DiRigo,
Aye.
Councilmember De La Rosa,
Aye.
Mayor Donahue.
All right, that passes.
Motion
I have
passes.
an unbroken streak of passing consent agendas. I like that. All right, now we're going to consider stuff. Let's see, Abe, you're up. And we're going to talk about citywide schedule of fees and service charges.
Good afternoon, committee members. Abe Pedroza, Assistant Finance Director, here to present the citywide schedule of fees and service charges annual update for fiscal year 2026-27. At this time, staff recommends that the Finance Committee provide input and direction on the proposed citywide schedule of fees and service charges for FY 26-27. The Consumer Price Index, or CPI, is an established metric by which the city can increase fees per Chapter 11B of the Salinas Municipal Code. And here is the historical information over the past 10 years regarding the CPI increase for the year, staff's corresponding recommendation, and ultimately what council adopted as the increase. For a period of 3 years, from 1718 through 1920, the CPI increase was in the 3% range, which is what staff recommended and what council adopted. For FY 2021, the CPI was 3.3%. COVID hit and council delayed its decision on any increase until October of that year. Given the uncertainty surrounding the state of the economy as a result of the pandemic, council then decided on no increase for the year at that time. Over the next 2 years, council adopted an increase of 2.5% annually, which differed from the CPI increase and staff's recommendation. However, for the past 3 years, from FY 23-24 through FY 25-26, council again adopted an increase that coincided with the CPI. And this year, staff is recommending a 2.2% increase per the CPI. I would like to note, as referenced on the staff report, that the city last conducted a fee study in 2015. It is best practice to periodically perform fee studies to ensure the city is recouping costs appropriately. Staff is planning on soliciting a consultant to assist with this in the upcoming fiscal year. This slide briefly details the discussion regarding the topic, first noting today's meeting. Additionally, outreach has been conducted with the Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce and the Nonprofit Alliance of Monterey County. In prior years, we had also reached out to SUBA, however, the organization dissolved in late 2025, and we did not receive any notice of objection or issue in regards to the proposed fee schedule for next year. And the item will be presented to City Council on April 21st. Here's a summary of the proposed changes by fee group. 8 new fees are being proposed. 52 fees cannot be changed due to mandates, and 74 fees remain unchanged due to the agreement with Monterey County on animal services. Excluding those, 96% of the fees have been recommended to be increased by the CPI, while 4% of the fees were either increased by a different metric, are unchanged, or have decreased per department discretion as detailed on the screen now in the staff report and on the fee schedule. And that concludes my presentation. Staff is available for questions. Thanks.
Margaret, any questions?
I just want to confirm
Yeah.
So it just looks like we did kind of a course correction between 20 and, or in the year 2021. That's why we went to 5.6 to sort of make up, I'm sorry, 2.5 to make up for that. And then, or was it the council just didn't approve the 3.3 that you guys recommended for some reason?
Yeah, in 2021, they did not approve the recommended
Sorry.
fee increase because of COVID.
Uh-huh.
And so then next year, we again recommended 3.3%. The CPI was 1.7, and council decided to, if you look on the notes there, they added and divided by 2 and got 2.5%.
Okay, perfect. That's what my math was saying too. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. All right. No public? Any Zoom? Okay. Let's see. So, okay, so there's no action here required. Any final comments? Okay. I missed my moment, but since I'm running the meeting, I'll come back to me. So you are going to go, because the question I was going to have, how competitive are we, and then what would the barometer be? Comparable cities, our size, cost of living. So the study you're going to
We'll
tee
determine.
up will take what into consideration?
Correct, yeah, it'll take all that into correct consideration, staff's time, making sure we're recouping the costs, but not overcharging.
Okay. Do you have I mean, aside from general, do you have a sense of any of our fees that are perceived as non-competitive or excessive? I'm sure no one's
I
walked in
don't
and
know.
said you're too cheap on anything.
I think, and maybe our finance director can back me up on this, but generally speaking, these types of fees are right in line with cost recovery of basic services. I think where you end up with the cost, more of that question is in the next item when we talk about impact fees per se. That's a little different. But this one is just for services. And most cities that I'm aware of look at CPI and depending on the fee engineering record from an inflation index.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Okay, good, thank you. All right, I think we're good. And Adriana, I think we're looking for you for the next go-around on impact fees. Which the city manager teased that we ought to pay close attention to.
Okay, good afternoon. Adriana Robles, Assistant Public Works Director, City Engineer. And I'm here to present you our annual update on development impact fees. Oh. Let's move back. Thank you. Okay. So, obviously, the city has the authority granted by the state to assess impact fees on developments, and this obviously helps developments and helps the city both to facilitate moving forward with developments, because in certain cases the developer isn't burdened with doing a large project. It's a shared cost between development. So what you're looking at here has been the adjustments that have been done over the past 5 years, similar to what Abe was saying in the previous report. There was during the COVID year, there was a leniency from the city, and what you see in fiscal year 22, 23 here is obviously that the construction cost index made a jump because of the COVID years in order to catch up. So development impact fees are are adjusted based on the Engineering News Record. That's a national publication, and we go based on the construction cost index. For the fiscal year 25-26, not fiscal year, I'm still thinking Abe's presentation. We measure it based on January to January. And from 2025 to 2026, the increase that occurred was from 2.8%. Okay, hopefully I can get back on gear here. Okay, so this slide presents to you the fees that we assess for. So residential incorporates all of the fees that you see here. Commercial and industrial does not include, obviously, some of the public services that really are meant for residential uses. And the next couple of slides that you're going to see are the actual fees that we're proposing. Again, we're taking the fees that we have, and we're just doing that annual adjustment of 2.8%. These fees are for infrastructure, and then these are facilities. So when we collect impact fees, it's not only about public works. So we are also collecting impact fees for services. So that's for parks, for recreation, for fire, for police. So this is that table for public facilities. Again, this is police, library, recreation, parks. For parks, there's a distinction between, there's actually several distinctions. There's a park fee, there's a park Quimby fee, and there's a specific park fees for the two development agreements that we have in place for the central area and for the west area specific plans. As part of the report, we're required to provide a statement that identifies where we are with these impact fees financially. And as of March 2nd, the balance was $20.9 million. And you can see where we are based on revenues and expenditures. The bulk of this, as you can see, the bulk of the money is really held in traffic impact fees. And this is not a project based off of CEQA, and we have done and will be doing all the notifications required by the state. With regards to public outreach, we've actually, similar to Abe's presentation, we've done notifications of these fees to the chamber, to the development community, to the Central Coast Builders Association. We presented this year, which was a little bit different. We presented to the Planning Commission. We're here today, and then on Thursday, we will present to the Traffic and Transportation Commission. So we're actually broadening our scope a bit when it comes to outreach of these fees prior to taking it to City Council. So today's request is to ask the commission, or the committee, to recommend the City Council approval of resolution increasing the development impact fees by 2.8% effective July 1st.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. Any questions? Margaret?
Hi, thanks for your report. Just a few. On the street tree fee, is that for residential folks that want to just have their tree cut down, or can you kind of define that a little bit?
No, so again, these are development impact
Developers,
fees.
okay.
So that means if somebody's coming in and our code says that they're required to install a tree every 60 feet. If they are not able to install the trees, then that's when we assess the fee.
Okay. And then if you could go back to the slide with all the numbers on it. I think it was a couple back. That one.
Oh.
Sorry, that one. Talk about the increase, the large increase in the total, the 20.9 balance. And it's much larger. And where does that, maybe I'm not reading the slide right, but, and where does that money go from here? Or is it just set aside?
So the big number here is the traffic impact fee. And really that was Amazon. I mean,
gotcha.
Amazon was basically a $10 million boost to the impact fees. So where it goes from here is we take that money and it's based off of the traffic fee ordinance. So that has identified projects within it that says these are the projects that the city's going to implement in order to address impacts from development.
Okay, that certainly makes sense to me. That's, Amazon said it all. Okay, that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can take the opportunity to really focus on this, 160,000 plus people, hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure improvement, growth about to happen. And when you look at our impact fees, I have more money in Gonzalo and some of these areas than Salinas has. And I think it's important, and it's important to point out only because development, for a lot of reasons, just hasn't occurred here. So when you're talking about 20.9 million, that seems like a large number. It is not a large number at all. And you think about, from a traffic perspective, the 13.9, like our city engineer mentioned, 10 plus of that is Amazon. If it wasn't for Amazon, we're down to less than around $3 million, which when you think about the share that we need to do for some of these projects as growth is happening, this is one of the challenges that I know our mayors are pointing out about the cost of the future is because of development for a lot of reasons, we just don't have a lot. So when we look to talk about infrastructure and improvements and so forth, is how do we finance it? And so these fees are calculated as growth happens. Nobody comes in and says, I'm going to pay my $50 million of impact fee for the future growth area now before I even bring in an application. So that's one of the struggles as our public works department is like, how do we do these projects and how do we balance out the fact that this fee is coming? Now, some projects, because of the requirement necessary, they might advance it. They might have to pay for the improvement, then there's reimbursements that go to that because they fronted the money. So that's one of the challenges that we have as we're looking how do we finance the future. This is a really low number for a city our size. And just for a lot of reasons. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's just the reality of where we're at today. So
No,
I
that-
think
that's
when people
helpful.
look at this number, it's like, it's big, it's not big. I mean, when you think about what we're thinking Abbott's going to cost, just by itself is probably 10, 11, $12 million.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's one project. And like the mayor like to point out to the railroad tracks. So just put it in perspective. I just want to say, just kind of put it in perspective
Thank
as
you.
we're looking at the future.
And I just want to add one more question, because having said that, I'm thinking about, like, are we able to forecast what that number needs to be the next year? That's really important, so we figure out where we need to go and build on that.
We're working on that, yeah.
Okay, good. That would be really helpful. Thank you.
Gloria?
Well, mine was just, all these fees were comparable with, we want to compare ourselves with other cities our size. Are we,
That's not.
we're
the
still
way-
below?
No, that's not the way development impact fees work. Development impact fees are really specific to the city. So they're very specific to these master plans that we've been working on. So those are the ones that dictate, this is what's needed and this is how much is impacted by development. So it's really that delta, right? Whether it's a traffic signal that it's because of development, that's why it needs to be installed, then that study says, okay, well, the burden is fully on development. If it's like in the case of our sewer, some of it is on us, some of it is on development, so then that's a shared cost. So it's really specific based on those studies.
Okay. So the public will know that the amount of this money is because of Amazon, so they don't think, right?
Correct.
We have to make sure they get it.
Correct.
Well, just based on the comments and the questions, it seems what's really going to be incumbent upon us is to communicate very clearly how we expect to finance things or what our financial capacity actually is based on current structures. I mean, it's still in my mind, just loops back around to how are we going to finance the future? Because we've got some real challenges shaping up with all of this. So which of these line items, even though you appear to be well-rested, which of these line items keeps you up at night?
All of them.
Not anyone in particular?
Well, obviously, being Public Works, to me, it's the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Infrastructure is key, right? It's how do we keep everything functioning in order to serve this development? Because if we're not able to do that, then we really would be causing some major, delays on our end.
Strange question, but are any of our infrastructure needs or challenges not showing up here in terms of revenue structures attached to it? For instance, I remember the first time I was the mayor, I got told by the Public Works Director, oh, by the way, Dennis, this is a 100-year-old city and no one knows exactly what's underneath. So in terms of what's underneath, I know that is sewage. I mean, do we have revenue streams designated to everything key we should be thinking about? I mean, are there any gaps in our thinking? Do we end up with a sample and on the news one night or something like that?
Well, one of the ones that we are working on is a storm drain, because we are taking a look at how the storm drain, as you see it here right now, we have it together and we really need to separate it. We're working on that. But one of them is really storm drain and our storm drain system, and seeing how, what the impacts are. We're currently doing that study. We're working with a consultant on that study.
All right, thank you.
And to add to that, since I'm seeing our fire chief out there, when you look at the fire impact fee, you see $832,000 because of just the development or the lack of development. As we're looking at Fire Station 7, how we're going to fund it, one of the updates to the impact fee is going to look to put those costs into here. Mm-hmm. And so while that money will trickle in as development happens, that will be very key to finance that project. And to whoever the next developer is going to do with this central area, the west area and so forth. So that's how these fees are also going to be looked at to be updated where we need to update it. And it's a balancing act, because I will tell you that many times developers don't want to pay these fees, because they will say, for example, well, Gilroy doesn't charge this fee. Well, okay, Gilroy already developed. So they might not have a need. Some cities don't charge some of these fees because they don't need them anymore. So it's comparing apples to apples. It's never a straight comparison. And then, by the way, what you don't see here is the regional transportation tax fee from the TAMC, which is also on top of the traffic impact fee. So there's all these layers, or the school impact fee. You don't see that here. That's also collected. So when you start talking to developers about the cost of development, it's like, well, somebody's got to pay for that cost. So that's how we balance it. So that's why I think it's important to look at these fees. And I can forecast that some of these areas, particularly in fire and a few others, there's a adjustment that needs to occur, because it's going to be hard for us to continue to support. Police station, the city took a big leap and did the police station. So we're probably good for a few more tens of thousands of people. Fire, not so much. That's an example.
So, question, just kind of picking up this report, what you've just said, and even though you're not comparing with other cities, I mean, when you add this all up, this is pretty damn anemic.
Yes, it is.
In terms of any capacity for future infrastructure.
Well, exactly. And Parks is another example where you think about the gift the city is receiving through the Big Sur Land Trust and Carl Lake. There's no way we would have been able to purchase that kind of added space with the resources that we have. So that's just another sort of, when we start looking at some of these. Now, the team's done a great job of getting grants and partnerships and so forth, but it's hard for us to finance, some of these improvements.
But for instance, if we said to Selena, what percentage of funds should we have in reserves? She'd probably have a real live number and a percentage.
Yes.
If I said that to Adriana, you'd say it sure isn't this. I mean, and I think that's something we have to really flesh out and explain, you know, because it's just part of that dilemma. And you know, we're trying to catch up with our past and get ready for the future. So we're not in a good place. So, who do we blame? It won't be you. Anyway, okay, this is very helpful. All right. I see no public. Is anyone Zooming? They are not. Okay, any final, and then you're looking for a recommendation on this to move this forward to council?
Yes, I'm looking for a recommendation for council.
All right, okay. All right, Margaret?
I'll make a motion to recommend to the city council approval of a resolution to increase city development impact fees by 2.8% effective July 1st, 2026.
Second.
All right, I will certainly support that, and I think when it comes back to council, I think without creating a fire drill, because I know we've got a lot going on to get ready for the budget and stuff like that, you know, the staff report should probably include, editorial might be the wrong word, but perspective, you know, just to accompany this, so we're able to, I mean, it tees up the conversation we want to have with the community that there are some challenges for how do we finance the future. But I think, you know, without a sky is falling perspective, just some sort of perspective of, you know, where we actually are. We'll figure out a way to take the hill, but I think we need to know where we're starting from. I think that'd be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, with that, let's go ahead and call for the question.
Councilmember DiRigo?
Yes.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Aye.
Mayor Donahue?
Yes.
Motion
Okay,
passes.
Thank you. Speaking of Selena, we
Yeah,
didn't get her.
My apologies. Going back to the citywide schedule of fees and service charges item, I misspoke, and we are actually looking for action similar to what we just did with the development impact fees. If we could have you all recommend to the council the 2.2% CPI increase is what we're looking for.
I'll take a walk on the wild side and make that motion and see if there's a second.
I'll second.
Okay, call for the question.
Councilmember DiRigo?
Yes.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Yes.
Mayor Donahue?
Yep.
Motion
All right,
passes.
very good. All right, now Selena.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council Members. Selena Andrews, Finance Director. The item before you is a biennial or two-year budget workshop. We're going to go through some items and would like to get your input at the end of the presentation. And hopefully there's some really good dialogue so that we can get a good understanding of any questions or any uncertainties that you might have about the biennial or two-year budget process. Staff's recommendation today is that you receive the report, provide input on the benefits of a biennial budget, operating and capital improvement program budget. We will still produce a 5-year capital improvement program, but we would be adopting the first 2 years of the CIP and the 2 years of the operating budget. So the benefits of the multi-year budgets, some advantages are planning for long-term projects. The community would have more certainty on services, finances, and tax levels because we would be issuing that or producing that budget book that would have all this information. And it would be a better strategic use of council and staff time in producing the budget, continuance improvements and implementation. We'd be incorporating operating costs to CIP projects. So at the beginning of every budget cycle, we have to identify what are those more long-term projects and what staff time needs are for those projects. So we'd be incorporating that at the beginning of the budget process. And then just provide budget discipline. So you have a better I guess, long-term view of what it is that you've already decided that you're going to work through in your budgets. And some of the disadvantages are reliance on forecasts. As you may recall, at mid-year, we revised the 5-year forecast, and that is correct at the time that we put the forecast together, right? All these projections could change with basically the economic conditions changing. All that could change, right? We have incorporated Amazon revenue for 26-27. That may come in stronger, that may not come in as strong. So that forecast does become a little bit less reliable the farther out we go in our budgets. And then unforeseen circumstances, that's really just anything that could come up that we didn't anticipate. So the budgetary process is a primary tool available to the city in identifying the most important things for us to accomplish and ensuring that the budget allocates the resources necessary for those goals. The City Council has identified its priorities, and it is staff's responsibility to ensure that the budget reflects those priorities. Here we have the City Council priorities, which are economic development, housing, infrastructure, city services, public safety, and youth and seniors. The budget should really focus on some key questions of what we do and why, not just how much does it cost and how will it be funded. Very few goals, as you are aware of, fit into one-year increments. That's why a 2-year budget would be helpful so that we can identify these goals and actually see them from beginning to completion. And there's also an importance in committing to these projects. So you would be identifying those projects maybe in year 1, and in year 2, the council will see that when they may be completed. So what should we consider in moving to a 2-year budget? At the most fundamental level, a 2-year budget is about aligning resources with goals over a meaningful horizon. This comes down to a few core things: clarity of direction, strategic resource allocation, stability and flexibility, execution discipline, measurable progress. And I think it's important to note, what is the current organizational culture in our budgeting process? Our budget controls rely heavily on formal policies, procedures, and documentation, which reduces flexibility but ensures compliance. There is a strong emphasis on fiscal responsibility because we are accountable to taxpayers. Now, with a 2-year budget, that would improve efficiency, not by making budgets less rigid, but by reducing how often that rigidity happens and giving staff more time to focus on actual execution of projects, evaluation, and long-term outcomes, rather than focusing on what budget constraints exist. Is integrating strategic planning and the budget process a high priority? Of course it is. It should be a high priority because the budget is actually being used to achieve goals, not just maintain routine operations. And do we have a process for this now? And will a multi-year approach improve it? So multi-year, we believe that a multi-year will strengthen strategic planning by shifting focus on short-term reactions to long-term direction and sustainability. So instead of making isolated annual budget decisions, we can focus on building a coherent roadmap and align actions over time. So this is what the biennial budget development process looks like over a 2-year horizon. There will be a public hearing to adopt the budget in June, the biennial budget in June. And in December, we'll have started our community budget outreach. And we generally conclude our mid-year review, budget review in February, but we start a couple months before then. And in March at the latest, we will begin the annual review process to revisit the city's program goals and services to ensure departmental objectives continue to be in line with council priorities. And so in June would be the year 2 budget public hearing. So essentially we would bring back, review the budget, the second year of the budget, and make sure that it still aligns with your priorities. With that, staff is available for questions.
Okay. Margaret?
Okay, even if we move to a 2-year budget cycle, that still won't prevent us from doing mid-year adjustments because adjustments just need to be done during the year regardless. As you mentioned, unforeseen circumstances. So we'll still have that ability to do that.
That is correct.
Throughout that process.
There would be a mid-year process for year 1, and then there would also be a mid-year process for year 2.
Okay. And then you answered most of my questions. This was such a great report. It was really thorough. And everything I was thinking in my head is really here. I was kind of curious about the Amazon income, because I know it's between 4 million and 8 million. And how did we even get to those numbers? Was that something that we worked on collectively with them? Or I know it's based on sales, and obviously, but that's just curious about where those numbers came from.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. So we worked with our financial advisor, and we also work with them on the 5-year forecast. So we did share this projection with Amazon, and they had no concerns with it. But we did work through with our financial advisor in the 4 years, just because it's, the 4 million, the initial 4 million projection is because they're opening later in the year as opposed to July 1st. And we anticipate that to grow over time. We still don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but we'll know soon enough.
Okay, thank you.
Do
No
you
further
mind
questions.
adding financial advisor, you're talking HDL or NHA?
NHA.
Can you talk about the benefit of HDL as well?
I'm sorry, the
HDL, the sales tax consultants, they also looked at this, right?
so they are projecting some revenue.
So our sales tax consultant, HDL, they have the sales tax data information for other cities that have Amazons. So they gave us ballparks. They can't give us exact numbers. So that's also part of the conversation. Like other cities already have fulfillment centers and what they're generating based on product type and what they bring in. So they're like small product, big product. There's a whole host of things that go into a projection. So not only NHL, but HDL also, just to sort of give us, are we in the ballpark? So there are a couple of groups that we work with.
Okay, so staying on that, on Amazon, so those are projected numbers?
Correct.
Projected numbers only.
Correct.
So we don't have anything right now in front of us. An Amazon that's bringing that amount of people, we have nothing to compare, or you just said maybe another city that has that. We kind of know, with these numbers?
It is a forecast at this time. It's really hard to know because actually the facility or the agency that City Manager Mendez just spoke about, their numbers came in much stronger than what we're forecasting. But it's really hard to really, I guess to determine that at this point, because the facility hasn't opened, and while they're telling us they're going to be a certain type of facility, we've yet to see it. So I think it's a good idea to be a little bit conservative at this point in time. Now, we will have more information And in the annual review, I imagine we'll be making some adjustments to our forecast.
Okay, then my other question is, in the mid-year budget, when we look at a budget mid-year, we can make changes.
Absolutely. Yes, that is
Yes.
also an opportunity to realign what our goals and what we think is being accomplished, or maybe we want to start on certain projects. Maybe we have the ability to do that. So that is a good time to do that as well, especially when you're adopting a 2-year budget. We need to allow that flexibility.
Okay, thank you, great report.
Does it would seem to me, could you elaborate a little bit from, I mean, maybe from your perspective, and then if any of the department heads wanted to comment on it, does the 2-year budget, what are the planning benefits of a 2-year budget? That seems to me to be kind of one of the hidden opportunities here to be a little more focused on planning, which allows for, I'm not sure efficiency is the right word, but ironically, a 2-year budget would seem to force a little more, being a little more strategic and prioritize things.
Thank you for the question. That is exactly the idea, is that having a longer horizon, you're able to plan to complete a project over a period of 2 years, right? Anytime you plan just about any projects, it's really hard to complete them in 1 year, whether it's a CIP project or even an internal project like we spoke about, updating our citywide fees. That's a project, and that is going to take citywide effort to get that accomplished, and that means a lot of collaboration. Now, while we plan on starting that in the coming fiscal year, it may not be completed by the end of the fiscal year. We hope it will, but other things may come up, and so this allows us to talk about it and have certainty that it will be completed within this budget cycle. CIP projects generally take 2 years or longer, and so I think it just gives you kind of an insight of what the plans are, and for staff, we can give you a timeline and talk about it in a 2-year horizon rather than this is what we think we can accomplish this year. And a lot of times we do have budget constraints for certain things, and this allows departments to see what their budgets are for any given projects for 2 years rather than just the 1 year. So I think that's the benefit. I'm not sure if I explained that correctly. Maybe City Manager Mendez can help.
You've got a visitor.
I think Lisa can.
Yeah. So I echo everything that Selena has provided, but I want to provide the other perspective because there's the project perspective and then there's the staff time perspective. And so putting together a budget is very labor intensive for both the finance department as well as the individual departments in formulating their budget. And so to do a heavy lift, do that advanced planning, that analysis every 2 years instead of every year saves time, because in that in-between year, you're still looking at it, you're still doing the refinement, but it's not the same effort, and you can put that effort and time into the program and project implementation. So that's a department director perspective in terms of efficient use of time.
Okay, good, thank you.
And I think since I have Lisa up there along with Selena, we started sort of our city command model director came forward and said, okay, laid out the future growth area, laid out sort of the different cycles in development and staffing appropriately through those cycles. So you invested a lot to prove some increased resources in planning. And then we're teasing up, now it's going to be on the building permit side and so forth as those projects, as applications come in. So I think from an accountability perspective, we've been talking a lot about dashboards and being held accountable to the community, how do we bring housing. You'll be able to see an evolution on the staffing side as well. It's like, okay, maybe in year 2 of a budget, we're not planning, and we get your authority to go ahead and start looking at building permit and bringing more of that activity. So we don't have to come back to you, get that approval, go through the hiring process, and now we're 3, 4, 5 months down the line. So it would allow us to kind of map that out as well. Our fire chief is looking at it from a fire station 7. We're doing it, but now we can kind of like, how do we bring the staff in? How do we do it and do it over a 24-month period as opposed to a 12-month period? And so if you give us authority to begin to hire staff in year 2, of course, the world still, nothing out of the ordinary happens, then the departments can start planning for it. We don't have to come back to you and ask permission. Because if you look at it from a council meeting, that takes at least a month. And then we got to get whatever signed. And then we got to go out and start the recruitment process. We're 2 or 3 months down the line. You're frustrated because we're the people. We're in a process. We initiate the recruitment 3 months, and that's going full board. Now we're 2 or 3 months to even get somebody, go through their interview process, the onboarding process, and when can they start? So you're 3/4 of the way through the year, and you haven't even hired the staff that you approved. So this will give us a lot more, that would help that as well. So I think that's and Lisa's, and our planning department's already started to do that. That's another.
Good, okay. All right. Public, gone. Zoomers, not here. Final comments, and then you're looking for moving this forward to the council to do business in the following manner, 2 and 5.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Any final comments? And then looking for a
I just think it's a brilliant plan. I don't know why, more people don't do the 2-year because, when you do a strategic plan, you don't do it for 1 year or 2 years, you do it for 5. So you can plan for the future. And so I think it makes so much sense to have that long-term outlook. We get criticized a lot for lack of transparency and fiscal responsibility. Well, that kind of covers this, and I think it brings the community into the conversation a little bit more thoroughly. So I love that. And what I liked on the last page was you asked the really hard questions, and you were able to answer them. And I think that's really important. It's not let's just do it because it's a great idea, but do we have the capacity to do it? Does it make sense for the city? And that's the part that I really liked, is that those questions were answered very well, and I feel really confident about it. I think it's a fantastic idea, so thank you. And I'll make a motion to, let me find the verbiage here.
Okay.
Just
Just a motion? Do I need a motion? Okay.
Okay.
To go to a 2-year budget cycle starting in 2026-27 and 2027-28.
Yeah, to recommend it to the council.
Recommended to the council at the upcoming meeting?
Yep.
Okay. Motion
And I'll
is
second it, but can I make a comment? Okay. It's a great report, and yes, this is the way to go. And I was also going to say, it's going to help, like Lisa said, staff time. I know you're all busy, and the public wants more of all of us, so I think this is great that we move forward with this. Okay, and again, we have the ability to look at it during mid-year and make changes, move monies around if we need to. So as long as everybody understands that, we're okay. I'm okay with it. Thank you.
All right, just to make a comment, and obviously I'm gonna support this, and I think, this is a smart move and the right move, particularly for a city that's getting ready to grow, and we really do need to be thoughtful about that, and I think, kind of thinking back to this particular council, everybody, I think, has kind of been going through a little growing, getting used to each other, and so I kind of viewed last year's budget as status quo, and then we kind of looked at it and said, hey, we need to lean into a few areas, and we did, and golly gee whiz, now we've got Abbott Street all the way to the railroad tracks and a little further. But the point is that it was a priority to lean into. But this is planting a flag for how we want to do business in the future. So I think this is a pivot point, and worth noting. And I think to Gloria's point, but people tend to view budgets as static, and I think they're dynamic. And so, whether it's 2 years or a 5-year CIP, I mean, we're always going to have the ability. But the thing is, I think, a commitment to good planning, preparing for the future, given, and Adriana's report is frankly significant, because at the end of the day, we've got to figure out how billions of dollars are going to move, particularly through the capital side. So the fact that we're putting down a marker that we're going to think longer term, more strategically, more planning, better use of staff time, I mean, those are all good things and worth noting. So they have been noted, and we'll call for the question.
Councilmember Diarigo?
Yes.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Yes.
Mayor Donahue?
Sure, why not?
Motion
And
passes.
with that, you know what? Let's not do this again until May 5th, 2026. We're adjourned.